Kickstart Your Coaching Edge podcast, where it's all about getting real around all things coaching.
And what we know for sure is that what got you here won't get you there.
You can't see the spinach in your own teeth.
And finally, hang on, because this one's really deep. Once you realize that you are the traffic, everything makes complete and unadulterated sense.
So today, Karen Sullivan, we're going to talk about the fear of failure.
Let's do it.
Okay, so in our last episode, we talked about what is your relationship with failure? And the whole guise of this is, what if we needed more failure in order to get to the success we dream about? And so oftentimes Karen and I hear, I'm afraid of failure, I'm afraid of failure, I'm afraid of failure. And it's interesting because that's not really the thing. We always talk about what's the thing behind the thing. Well, this is another case of that, right? So when people say they are afraid of failure, Karen and I call bullshit. Are you really afraid of failure, or are you afraid of what failure feels like?
Say that 3 times real fast.
I can't.
So did anybody fail at doing their homework though last week?
Good question, right? So what are you thinking?
That is a good question, because the question is, does it make you a failure if you didn't do it, or do you just choose not to do it? Because then is it a failure? Or even if you, never mind, I'm going to say too many words right now, forget it.
All right. So the key thing is that when we experience failure, whatever it is that failure means to me, most of us default to not feeling better about life, but feeling worse about life. Normally, we personalize it about what it means about us as human beings, right? And so when we set out to do something and we don't have the results that we want, we tend to be disappointed, frustrated, sad, apathetic. I'm trying to think of some other things that come up when we feel like we failed at something. Those are good ones. So it's interesting because when we said we have a fear of failure, we really have a fear of maybe feeling those feelings, because those feelings don't feel great, right? And so, which is fine. We can't be happy all the time, but it is interesting that so often we put our dreams, our goals on hold because we might experience sadness along the way, or we might experience disappointment along the way, or we might experience frustration along the way. We can handle those emotions and what they feel like.
Yeah. And you know what, too, Jen, it's just, if you really think about it, if you want something and you're not going to do anything to get it because you're afraid you're not going to get it, you already don't have it.
Yes.
So then does that make you failing to begin with?
So that's a real interesting play on it, right? So often do we go so far out of our way to avoid feeling potential disappointment, sadness, etc., that we set ourselves up to feel that from the beginning, when all along we're just trying to avoid that feeling.
Right.
I sort of feel like everyone needs to rewind and listen to the last minute of this, right? To really hear what it is that we're saying. So many times people will say, oh, I don't want to start dating because I don't want to be rejected. And that would feel like failure. It would be horrible. So instead they reject themselves and don't put themselves out there, already feeling horrible.
And alone.
Right?
And not in a relationship that they want. Or do they just say they want it? Like, this whole thing is like, you create, Jen, this just makes me think again and again and again. You just create your own reality every day. You do.
Yeah.
And you create your own reality every day by what you think. Or you create your own reality. I'm not even sure this is correct as I'm saying it. So let's play a little bit. Or you create your own reality every day by what you're afraid of feeling.
Which is both, because it all comes to our thoughts.
Precisely, Einstein.
Yeah, I love that, right? And so we create our reality with failure. There are times, Karen, that I can say that we have been inspired by what would be labeled as failure, right? Set a goal, we try to do it, we don't quite make it, and then we sit there and go, next time, that's mine. What did I learn about myself during this process that I want to do differently? How do I want to show up? How do we want to approach something different? Like all of those kinds of questions about, okay, that didn't work. Now what? And there can be a lot of excitement and energy that we can use to build to figure out the way around whatever obstacle it was. Because sometimes we're disappointed, sometimes we're frustrated, sometimes we're sad. And the reality is, we don't stay in that energy. What are you giggling about, Karen?
Because just the way, and sometimes we're sad.
And sometimes we're sad. But it's true, right? And the thing is, we can handle any emotion that comes our way. That's the key thing, right? So as people are afraid of failing, remember, so ask yourself this: what am I afraid of failing at? So much so that I put my hopes and dreams on the shelf. And then when you look at that item, right, of what it is that you want, and what are you afraid you might feel in your pursuit of actually obtaining that goal? I think it's really interesting. But you're right, Kara. We create our reality and we create our relationship of what does failure mean to you? And what if you chose failure to mean, all right, I'm getting closer. That wasn't the answer. That wasn't the result, but it's right around the corner. One more possibility out of the way, I'm that much closer.
You know, it's funny, Jen, that just made me really quickly think of a gig years ago that we didn't get. And remember, I was a little bit sketchy on, do we want it? Do we not want it? And you're like, no, we want it. And I'm like, all right, yeah, let's be 100% in. So we're 100% in and trying to get this gig. And then we didn't get it. And we were both like, the place turned into a shit show. And we dodged the biggest freaking bullet ever because it was just a cluster and a half. And just everything about it really was. And the great thing that we just kept saying was, oh my God, it is so great that we didn't do that work with them. So you just never know. And because we were 100% in, we were both disappointed when it didn't work. But then it kind of was just like, you know what? I got to tell you, hugest bullet ever, and we dodged it. And we were just like, oh my God, again and again and again. Thank you that never happened.
Which I'm going to end on this note, Karen. I think that's great. It's about what if the things that you are labeling as failure is actually a gift. And what if you were able to say, I'm glad that didn't happen because there's something better out there. There's another approach. There's another way. And use that so that we're not afraid of what it feels like, but be able to take the choice in the moment to really say, what if this was actually in my best interest and I'm still going for my goal? I love it. All right, that's it.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Kickstart Your Coaching Edge podcast. Craving more in-depth discussions? Check out the Get Real Inner Circle with our no BS in-crowd of coaches.
Join live coaching discussions, breakdowns of coaching calls, and have some fun while you're at it.
You're going to want to go to kickstartyouredge.com/inner circle. It's time to get real.